Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and this is the first On the Mark after the Culturama 52 celebrations. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But let me say good evening to all who are listening, those who are here in beautiful Queen City, Nevis, those who are in St. Kitts, Sugar City, St. Kitts, those who are over there in Anguilla, those who are in St. Martin, USVI, BVI, Montserrat, all day in Sabre, Statia, wherever you are. I'm told even in St. Bartholomew. So bonne nuit to those who are in St. Bartholomew. Good night to you, and those in French St. Martin. Bonne nuit. I'm hopeful that we'll have a good show tonight. Those who are listening farther afield, I know that we have regular listeners in places as far-flung as Jamaica and Barbados and elsewhere. Those in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, good evening to all of you. Welcome to this edition of On the Mark. My name is Mark Brantley. I'm the host for this evening, and we will be here, God willing, from 8 until 10 p.m. Every Wednesday we try to be here, and it's an appointment that we think is important, and it's an appointment that as a consequence we try to keep. This evening, prior to coming here, if you're wondering why I'm dressed as the way I am, it's because I was graciously invited to attend the 70th birthday party for our first Culturama queen, Lucina Stapleton, who celebrated her birthday in grand style. It's an event that is ongoing. I went to pay my respects and to acknowledge a truly, truly great Nivision, and to say happy birthday to her. I was privileged to have a few minutes to say happy birthday before leaving to come here and spend the next 2 hours with you, the general public. But I want to use this rostrum to say a happy birthday to Queen Lucina, as I call her, a woman who I think epitomizes grace and beauty and epitomizes what is good and great about the Nivision spirit. She is someone who has always remained connected. Year after year for Culturama, she's here. She has remained connected, and I made the point tonight that she is a living example of a Nivision who has never forgotten Nevis. A Nivision who has not allowed the busy life abroad to separate her from this island of her birth. And I thank her for that, and I encourage other Nivisians who are abroad to do similarly. And so happy birthday, Queen Lucina. God bless you. He has taken you to 70. And I made a joke with her the other day. I saw her and I said, I believe if she were to enter the Culturama Queen pageant any time this year or next, that she would give the contestants a run for their money. She is still so radiant, so beautiful, and such a gracious, gracious person. And I was able to meet her daughter as well. And so even though I know they're busy partying now and enjoying themselves, perhaps on the replay they'll hear me, I want to wish her all the very best and God's continued grace, mercy, and abundant blessings. I did ask her to invite me back for 80 and then 90, and then we celebrate the big 100. So we'll see how that goes. But Lucina, all the best. You are a beautiful human being, and I wish you God's continued grace, mercy, and abundant blessings. Happy birthday. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Culturama 52 has come to an end. And I just want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, all those who got involved to make it great. Each Culturama, we deal with a set of people here in Nevis who they start out always fast on the track, always full of criticism, always trying to dampen the spirit, always telling your culture is dead. And then, of course, blaming somebody for killing it. That has been par for the course. Some people, I don't even see them on social media until Culturama time come around. And the thing that I find most interesting is they tend to preface all that they're going to say by saying how much they love Culturama. But by the time you finish reading what they have to say, if you were faint of heart, you would say, well, I'm not wasting my time on Nevis Culturama. Well, let me tell you something. Culturama 52 was one for the ages. It was one for the ages. I had a bit of a health issue, and so I wasn't able to get around as much as I would have liked during the Culturama. But I did go to the Calypso show. I did go briefly to the Soca Monarch, and I did go to the parade on Parade Day. And I must say that what I saw was impressive. The shows were well attended. The shows were well organized. I spoke to my daughter who attended the Culturama Queen show. She said to me that it was one of the best shows that she had ever attended. The shows were well done. The people who came out and participated, our contestants, they all acquitted themselves well. And I think that with each performance, with each line of poetry, with each song, with each beat of the band and beat of the drum, with each strum of the guitar, it forced those nattering nabobs of negativity into silence, until a lot of them now start to jump in, because that's what tends to happen. People who criticize and criticize have nothing to offer, but then when the train is going, you see them sneak in the back door and jump on the train. That just is the nature of life. And what Culturama 52 says to me is that the people out there who are dedicated to preserving this thing called culture in Nevis ignored the noise. They ignored the naysayers and they came out. Now, I am not sitting here tonight to suggest to you that the festival is perfect. Far from. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But that work is not being done by those who spend their time sitting in their armchairs and criticizing and cussing. And it is symptomatic of what happens here in our country. In this country of St. Kitts and Nevis, and on this island of Nevis, we have a lot of critics, a lot of armchair experts. They know everything that is wrong. But when you try to change the conversation and say, all right, so this is wrong, can you therefore make a suggestion or a recommendation? They head for the hills. They take, as we say colloquially, head, neck, foot, because they can't articulate any solution. They could only tell you what is wrong. They can't tell you what they would do differently or how they would make it right. And so criticism without suggestions, without suggested solutions, is really just a waste of everybody's time, in my humble opinion. And so I have said to Minister Evelyn, who I want to commend publicly tonight, because he was under attack. He, his ministry, he was under attack. And I want to commend him because he stayed the course and he has delivered a Culturama for the ages. I want to thank Swain Evelyn. Swain, so many people got in touch with me, Swain this, Swain that, Swain the other. Swain, congratulations, you delivered a Culturama for the ages. I want to thank the entire team. Those at the Culturama Secretariat, those at the NCDF, those volunteers who make up the Culturama Committee. I want to thank them all. I want to thank the participants, the Calypsonians, the Queen and Mr. Cool contestants, the swimsuit contestants, the talented teens, the youths who came out. I want to thank all who participated in Panorama, Soca Monarch, those who went on the road in the troops for Juve. I want to thank our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts who came over in their numbers to jam on the streets. In fact, I saw a young lady, I can't remember her name, but somebody sent me something that she had put up saying that she had not come to Culturama before, but this was the first time she was coming to Juve, and it was one of the best Juves she had ever been to. She said the bar said hi. Incidentally, I heard she had an accident, and so I want to send out best wishes to her for a speedy recovery, as I'm told she fell sometime afterwards during the final day. And so I hope that you have a speedy recovery, young woman. As I said, I'm having difficulty right now remembering the name, but I'm told that she is an influencer from St. Kitts. But somebody did send me a clip of what she had to say. And people have been raving about Culturama, and it makes my heart glad. Because sometimes in this island, it seems to me that some are just waiting for you to fail, so they could jump up and clap and say, he, I told you so. They're not doing anything themselves to help. Many of them who say they love the culture and have so much to offer, they have withdrawn themselves. Almost as if to say, if I'm not in charge or if I'm not getting what I want, I am not going to involve myself. It's like the old adage of when you're in school and you own the bat and you don't believe that you are out, or you don't like the way you are out, or you don't like how the game was going, you take up your bat and you go on home. Game done. Game mash up. some people operate in that way. You know, youngsters, sometimes you don't like what happens, you go and you stand up in the wicket. And then fight break out because you want to mash up the game. And I want our people to sometimes step back and realize that the game, and in this case what is our culture, is bigger than any individual. It doesn't belong to Mark Brantley. It doesn't belong to anybody in government or anybody in opposition. It belongs to all of us. And too often we want to treat it as if it's a political football. Our side isn't in. And so we want to malign and we want to say we're not going to support this and we're not going to support that. And you know the irony is, even though they're out there saying all that they're saying, people are showing up. People are patronizing. People are stepping up. People are getting involved. And it tells me, and it should tell them, that the constant negativity isn't working. If you have ideas, if you have something to contribute, then come forward. Come forward. The door is open. Lend your expertise, lend your assistance. This constant situation every year where people are trying their best to create controversy. Oh, I didn't get no job. Oh, I this, oh, I that, without giving the full story sometimes. And I'm saying to our people, listen, let's really put the culture, let's put the preservation of our culture beyond whatever little petty difficulties and petty politics that we want to play sometimes. I see them, you know, I don't respond. Because sometimes, even though I know what the real story is, you just leave it alone. You don't try to give it any legs. Because sometimes if I were to respond, of course, what is a non-story becomes a big story because people say, well, the Premier has engaged and the Premier said this and the Premier said that. So I just leave it alone. And so a lot of times people with misinformation, they put it out there and nobody bothers to correct them. And after a while the story dies because, you know, each thing here have 7 days, they say. A lifespan of 7 days is the usual story. And so after the 7 days, you know, the story goes away. And I just want to encourage our people. Listen, we're better than that. We're bigger than that. And the success of this culture armor here, the last report I had last evening was that the culture armor ended. We had a few, they said, little skirmishes in the band. But beyond that, we had no major incidents of any kind. And I'm very, very grateful to that. I want to thank for that. I want to thank the Police High Command and the action plan that they always put in place for these big events. I want to thank the Commissioner of Police. He sent over reinforcements as usual from St. Kitts. I want to thank Superintendent Carty, who is the man who is in charge of Division C, that is Nevis. I want to thank the Army and individuals who would have come over to bolster and make sure that people kept the peace. And I think that they did a wonderful job. And then this morning I saw something that warmed my heart. My good friend Patrick Howell, they know him as Daddy Play. He posted a video indicating that he had been driving through Charlestown and the streets were as clean as a whistle. You could eat off the streets. He said you wouldn't even realize that there was a big event yesterday with garbage on the streets as a result of that big event and parade and all of that. And I want to thank him for that video, but pay homage this evening as well to those fellows who do the street cleaning, who come, and the sanitation workers, and make sure that Charlestown is kept clean. And here they were after a big festival. Festival finished yesterday. Streets were clean by this morning, ready in time for business. That's the Nevis that we have. That's the Nevis we should be proud of. And so I truly want to say thank you to all. Eric Evelyn, I know you were at the event for Queen Lucina, but congratulations, my brother. Congratulations. The criticisms are always frequent, loud. But at the end of the day, what matters are the results. And I believe that people are satisfied that there was an excellent Culture Armor 52. And I say kudos to you, Swain, the entire team. It's important that we recognize that the efforts aren't easy. The efforts aren't easy, and oftentimes the efforts are unrewarded. The same ones who criticize and cuss will never come back to say, well, I was wrong and Culture Armor was great. No. But they will harp on every little thing that they could find. And so I know that things weren't perfect. I know there were a few mishaps. I was very concerned, for example, with my friends in the Ultimate Band because they had a difficulty. They couldn't find a truck And I don't believe they made it on the road for Juve. And I know that they felt very, very aggrieved by that because they wanted to be on the road. But I was on the phone constantly with Swain Juve morning trying to resolve that problem. I made a lot of calls myself, and there was just simply no truck available on Nevis. And they had to be sent into Sinkis to get one. So I publicly apologized to the Ultimate Band. It's a local band, Nevis band, a lot of youngsters trying something, and I want to encourage them not to give up, but to keep trying. I want to congratulate all those who won the various shows, Queen Maya Alexander, who won the Queen show, and those who participated and the runners-up, King Cairo, who won the Calypso show, and the others who were runners-up. I want to congratulate those who won the various shows on offer, those who won the panorama, and just to thank everyone. I feel my heart is full. I feel so grateful that people got involved and people really came out and made Culturama great. Kudos to all of you. People fetted responsibly, partied responsibly. Praise be to God. No major incidents, no major accidents on the roads, no deaths, no major injuries to anybody. I'm very, very grateful that all went well. And as the night goes on, no doubt, we will have calls coming in about Culturama, but I want to just say thank you to everyone and say how grateful I am as Premier of this island that we could have delivered a successful Culturama 52. My admonition is to those who have withheld themselves from Culturama. Listen, it's not benefiting you, and it's not benefiting Nevis, it's not benefiting culture. Come into the ring, participate. Lend your ideas, lend your talent. Let us see how we can build this thing together. It is bigger than all of us, and if we do it right, long after we are gone, Culturama will continue. Kudos again to all those involved. Truly, truly grateful to you for your participation. And for all those who came home, thank you for coming home for Culturama. We look forward to seeing you next year as we celebrate another year of Nevis Culturama. Now, let me shift gears, because some very big things have been happening even as people were fetting and enjoying the holiday weekend and enjoying the Culturama festivities. Let me shift gears to talk to you a bit about one of the biggest projects that Nevis is undertaking currently, and that is the geothermal project. Now, geothermal, ladies and gentlemen, has been talked about now for over 2 decades. It's been a very long journey. I feel particularly qualified to talk about geothermal because when the CCM-led administration, under the leadership of the late Honorable Vance Amry, started with geothermal, this was in 2004. And I, as a young lawyer then, was working with the geothermal project. At the time, it was an OAS, Organization of American States, sponsored project called GeoCaribe. Of course, we know the history. The government changed 2 years later, and the Honorable Joseph Parry became the Premier of Nevis in 2006, and the NRP took a different approach. They abandoned the GeoCaribe project, and they jumped into bed with a company called West Indies Power. West Indies Power and the government had their relationship, and that relationship lasted throughout the term of the NRP administration. When we took the reins of leadership in Nevis in 2013, we met the project in disarray. What we met was legal action, where the same NRP administration had taken West Indies Power to court and had taken them to court to try to extricate Nevis from the contract that they had signed with West Indies Power. That is what we met. So our first order of business was not geothermal, but to fight a legal battle to extricate Nevis from this agreement that had been entered into. That wound its way through the courts, and eventually we were successful, both at the High Court and at the Court of Appeal. There was some threat about going to the Privy Council, but that did not materialize. That took us some time. After we were free of West Indies Power, we then decided to set about doing this project. That would have been probably around 2015 or 2016 or thereabouts, I would think. And so we would have engaged the U.S. government through the State Department, and they provided some assistance. And they sent us some consultants from Deloitte Consulting, who guided us through a request for proposal process. Through that process, we had bids. We selected a company called NREI, Nevis Renewable Energy International, I think they were called. And that company was selected through that very open and transparent bidding process. And as a consequence, we entered into certain arrangements and agreements with that company. That company was charged then with developing the geothermal resource on Nevis. And they made certain commitments. Ultimately, when they could not fulfill their commitments, we had learnt the lessons. And so we had certain exit clauses built into the agreements. And we exercised those exit clauses. Without litigation or any difficulty, we said, well, you have not met the milestones. And so we said goodbye to NREI. That period did set us back a few years because, of course, we were under contract and trying to make that relationship work. Once we extricated ourselves from that arrangement, we then went back, and I want to give credit tonight to Mr. Albert Gordon, who was here. He's Jamaican, but he was here as head of NEVLEC. He was the general manager at NEVLEC. And Mr. Gordon set about trying to assist us to say, listen, let's change tact. Let us see if we can do two things. One, divide the project into two. First part being drilling, and a second phase being the plant. Before we were trying to do it as a single project. And two, let us approach the Caribbean Development Bank to see whether or not we could get some funding through those multilateral type organizations. And so that set us now on a different path. The funding of the drilling is the most difficult part because the drilling is the riskiest part of the project. Now, we have already had exploratory wells done. So we know that we have the resource. The flow tests, all of that has been done. What we are now seeking to do is to drill the production wells, which is a well with a much larger diameter. And the idea then is that those wells are what are going to be ultimately used to generate the power, turning turbines to generate power. And so we set about quite ambitiously because initially the idea was to do a 10 megawatt plant. We've set about quite ambitiously now to do a 30 megawatt plant. And we hope that we are going to drill 5 wells, 3 production and 2 re-injection wells. Now, as I understand it, the production wells, the steam comes up, it turns the turbines. After the steam cools, it becomes water. It is re-injected into the earth. And so the loop, it's a loop of steam coming, being liquefied, re-injected into the earth, and then coming back again as steam. So the heat in the earth's crust is what is generating the steam that we're then using to turn turbines. And so that is the process now. Now, a number of things have happened. In 2017, the CDB would have announced that they were prepared to fund some, I believe it was 17 million US dollars. 1 million US dollars by way of grant funding and 16 million by what they call a contingency recoverable grant. That is, that if the drilling succeeds, it becomes a low interest loan. If the drilling doesn't succeed, then it's a grant. And it is that kind of thinking that produced that instrument that sought to lower the risk of the drilling phase of the project. Another important thing happened, and that important thing that happened was that the government changed at the national level in 2022. Now, that may sound strange for me to say because I was a part of the previous government. That was the unity government. But I only found out after the government change, from some discussions that were held with some visiting government officials from the United States, that while I as Premier of Nevis was out there pushing the geothermal project in Nevis as a savior for our country, that the then leadership on St. Kitts and the leadership in the cabinet in which I sat were actively saying behind closed doors to the US government and others that they were not supporting the project on Nevis. And so one of the comments made to me after I was out of government but got the opportunity to engage with U.S. officials, is that they hope that St. Kitts and Nevis was now serious. I want to give Prime Minister Terence Drew some credit, because in our very first meeting after he became Prime Minister, I said to him that this project had the potential to transform St. Kitts and Nevis. We have so much available geothermal energy, the scientists tell us, that is not only about transforming Nevis, it's about transforming St. Kitts and Nevis, making cheaper, cleaner energy available to every man, woman, and child, every business in this country. He said he agreed with me. And we sat in his office in the first week, I believe, after he was elected, and we committed that we would work together to make this project a reality. We then took that commitment to the National Parliament, and we had a joint, I said joint, it's a resolution of the Parliament, but the reason I said joint because it had full support from the division members of the opposition. And we passed the resolution, which in effect says that we will seek to develop geothermal and to develop it for the benefit of the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Along the way, and I want the people of Nevis to understand me very clearly, along the way, the federal government has been instrumental in securing financing for the geothermal project. In fact, I'll go further and say it this way. If the federal government were not involved, we could not have moved the project as far as we have now moved it, because the financing would not have been made available. What do I mean by that? NEVLEC has been the lead on this project. The Premier's ministry, working through P.S. Wakely Daniel, has been leading on this project. Albert Gordon, whom I mentioned earlier, has been leading on this project. We are setting up a project management unit now, which will guide this project. But the problem that we always had was that because Nevis is not sovereign, even the CDB money, the IDB money, Inter-American Development Bank, money from the Green Climate Fund, whenever any of those resources became available, the federal government, that is the government in Bastille, had to sign off. In fact, even now, ladies and gentlemen, the reality is that in order for us to access the funding, the letter has to go from the PS St. Kitts to the Caribbean Development Bank for the monies to be released. And so we could not do this without Bastille. We could not do this without the federal government. And let's come back to what I call the political will. Because when I was in the unity government, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, was not supportive of the project. And whilst he postured publicly, privately, he was saying a different thing. And as a consequence, the project was stalled. I didn't quite understand why it was stalled, because as I said, the ramifications only became clear to me after we were out of office and I had certain conversations with representatives of the U.S. government. So St. Kitts had been blocking this project, and now, since 2022, St. Kitts has been assisting this project. I'm grateful to Dr. Drew because he has been a partner in this project, and he recognizes, as I always recognize, that this project can be the savior for St. Kitts and Nevis. I say it because, ladies and gentlemen, let us be honest with ourselves. The Citizenship by Investment program, which the country depended on for so long, is on life support. The EU has sent their missive to say it must be shut down, I think by June or thereabouts of 2028. They've given a 2-year time frame to shut it down. We have to, therefore, think quickly about what we're going to do with this economy. The geothermal resource in Nevis is so vast that it can transform the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis into an energy-based economy. And I see significant revenues, significant wealth, significant job growth, significant economic expansion and GDP expansion. In fact, let me tell you something. I use one of these AI tools, and so I preface it with that because obviously this is not a an expert analysis from somebody who is trained in that. I don't know what would have fueled AI's conclusions to me, but I used an AI tool and I said, can you give me a sense of a valuation of 1,000 megawatt geothermal resource on the island of Nevis? And that AI tool came back and said to me that if given constraints and given certain running periods, they made adjustments as the case may be. But they said basically that if we had 1,000 megawatt capacity and we were selling power at 8 cents US per square, 8 cents US, I'm sorry, per kilowatt hour, then that resource would be valued at between 6 and 8 billion US dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard me right. Billion US dollars. They said if you were selling power at 11 cents, they gave various scenarios. But the higher you sold the power at, I think they went up to about 13 cents, the higher the valuation of the resource. At 8 cents, the valuation was between 6 and 8 billion US dollars. Naturally, at 13 cents, it was nearly double that. And so we've been sitting on a multi-billion dollar resource here, right on the island of Nevis. You know how that could transform lives here? You know what it would be like for businesses here? That single mother, that single father, that elderly person, to be able to power their home, power their business, and electricity cost is no longer a significant impediment for them to do business. We can get rid of this dreaded fuel surcharge that people have been complaining so bitterly about. We can now say to the world that we're the greenest place on planet Earth. We can generate new industries that are looking for cheap, clean energy in abundance. We can supply not only sink kits but our neighbors. Antigua has already indicated that they want power. The French and Dutch islands close by, St. Martin, Saba, Statia, St. Bartholomew, Anguilla, all of those are potentially within range of supplying power from Nevis. The possibilities are endless. The ability to power ships, to act as a docking station for these cruise ships to come in and be powered up, all using clean, renewable energy. The ability to create green ammonia, hydrogen, and byproducts from geothermal. I am talking long-term strategy. Strategy which will hopefully outlast my term in office and outlast even me in terms of my term here on earth. But we are laying the foundations now. Now clearly, people have said this has taken too long. But I have seen this every step of the way. I was there in 2004. I was no longer there in 2006. Different administration. They took over. They held that and ran with it until 2013. We came in, we fought the court battle. We eventually won. We went back through another process. That failed. We went then to the CDB. And it has been a long journey. Now, why am I giving you all that history? I'm giving you that history because this morning I sat in a meeting which I suspect had, between those online and those in the room, about 50 people. And that meeting was a high-level meeting, technical meeting, of persons from the Caribbean Development Bank, persons from the Inter-American Development Bank. We had NEVLEC in the room. We had various ministries represented in the room. And it really was to go through item by item what had been done, what was outstanding, to basically do a health check, if you will, on the project. I'm very pleased to say that NEVLEC has recently put out a press release. And that press release has indicated that some almost $6 million US has already been released to Icelandic drilling. And Icelandic drilling is now in the process of mobilizing. We will shortly be sending a team to Iceland to inspect the rig. And then we're trying to get the rig shipped in so that we can start the drilling process as soon as possible. The purpose for this visit, and they'll be here for the next few days from this technical team from CDB and IDB, is for them to really be on the ground and to see the state of readiness for themselves. And so they'll be working closely with NEVLEC, they'll be working closely with the Premier's Ministry, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Works. We'll have to do some works in terms of water. And I'm saying all that because I want the people in Nevis, particularly those who are involved with heavy equipment, trucking, backhoe, excavator, your services will be needed. Your services will be needed. There's a lot of work to be done. We have work in terms of water. We have work in terms of the geothermal drilling and clearing and development that is anticipated. And we expect that there will be a hive of activity in the Hamilton area. Youngsters who are in Hamilton, I'm asking you to get yourselves ready. We are hopeful that as this drilling starts and as the work starts, that you would have food sharing right in your neighborhood. We want you to get ready and be a part of it. We see this as being transformative for this island and ultimately for this country. Now, given that Nevis at peak is only about 12 megawatts, St. Kitts at peak is only about 35 megawatts, it means that at 30 megawatts of geothermal energy, and 30 megawatts is a conservative estimate because some of the science is suggesting that from those 3 production wells we can actually get 45 megawatts, 15 megawatt per well. If that were to materialize, it means that we have between 30 and 45 megawatts of available power from this first drilling phase. And that will be enough to wean the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis off fossil fuel energy for our baseline power. I think that that's an amazing, amazing development. The interconnectivity studies have been done. We only have to run a line, sometimes I joke and say a drop card, across the Narrows to power up St. Kitts. We are, ladies and gentlemen, truly in an exciting space now. And with that significant sum being paid over to Icelandic Drilling, they've confirmed receipt and they're now fully mobilized. We anticipate that we will be moving in leaps and bounds to get this project delivered for the benefit of the people of Nevis and the people of St. Kitts. I am really happy at what I'm seeing, and I really want to give credit to all those who have championed this project and been a part of it. I have never lost faith. Throughout, I have never lost faith. I've always said that this project can be transformative. I've always seen the value in it, and I've stayed with it. Not always agreed with the approach, but certainly have not lost faith in what this project can do for our country. And so, I'm delighted to report that some, I think it's 5.9 or thereabouts million US dollars has already been dispatched to Icelandic Drilling, that we expect the team to go there very shortly to Iceland to inspect the drill, and then we expect them to ship into country the drill rig and to then start the process of setting up and to start the drilling process there at our first site at Hamilton. Today, interestingly, we had an interesting conversation that while the drill rig was here, because many who follow these things would understand that there's a high cost to mobilize and then demobilize. And if we are paying to bring the rig in, and then having done the 5 wells, we have to pay to send it out, then the idea is, if you can have them here on island, why not let them do some more drilling while they're here? So that discussion is also a discussion which is ongoing to determine if instead of only the 5 wells, that is 3 production and 2 reinjection, we can maybe do 8 or 10 wells while they're here. So that is where we are now in terms of our discussions. But I'm very happy to say that the envelope of funding is some 59.25 million US dollars that we have secured, and that is funding from the CDB, funding from the IDB, funding from the GCF, Green Climate Fund. And the appetite for these organizations is quite high for this project because they too share the view that this project is not the ordinary project. This project is an extraordinary project because of the impact that it can have in truly, truly revolutionizing St. Kitts and Nevis and making us the model for sustainable development globally. Now, I have said that what the exploitation of cheap, clean energy does for us is that it then makes it possible for us to do desalination on a larger scale. We are surrounded by oceans, and yet some of these islands suffer from water constraints. The high cost of electricity is one of the big impediments to desalination on a large scale. But with clean, cheap energy, we can move to desalination in a major way. That will give our underground aquifers an opportunity to recover. And it also means an abundance of clean, affordable water. It therefore means that with geothermal energy, we attain energy security. We are no longer watching the news every morning to find out what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz or what's happening in Venezuela, because we would have insulated ourselves from those shocks. I'm no longer required as the Premier of Nevis to come and apologize to our public for the high cost of electricity because fuel cost is skyrocketing, because we would have insulated ourselves from those shocks. And then, with cheaper, cleaner energy, greater desalination, we solve the water problem. So we become energy independent, we become water independent. With water independence, one of the main ingredients for agriculture is water. We can then provide water to our farmers in abundance. Hopefully that then leads to greater food independence. And then, of course, we have the economic transformation that we expect to bring. One of the major problems we have as a small government is just the limitations of size. Small population, small tax base. This now creates a revenue stream for us that allows us now to deliver on our commitments in terms of infrastructure, social services, and the like. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I really do think that this is an exciting time for our island and for our country. And it shows what is possible when political maturity is allowed to work. When the leadership in Nevis says to the leadership in St. Kitts, and the leadership in St. Kitts says to the leadership in Nevis, listen, whatever our political views may be, there are some big issues here, let's work on them together. Geothermal is one such issue. Crime and security was another such issue, where I publicly pledge my full support, and the results are there to be seen. We are in our period of lowest crime in the last, I would say, 20 years in this country. And the geothermal project is finally moving forward. I believe that there is value in allowing political maturity a place, a space to function. And so I just want again to thank all those who have been involved. Now we have about another 15 minutes before the hour of 9 o'clock. Let me say one last thing. And that has to do with my government's perspective on the development of the Nevisian people. Oftentimes we hear about sustainability, and sustainability, some talk about, it's always about the environment, it's about, sustainable housing, sustainable infrastructure. Very rarely do you hear those talk about people, human beings. And obviously there can be no development without human beings at the center. The CCM has always said that the ethos, the philosophy that informs us, is that our people matter most. Now it sounds like a catchy slogan, but the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. And so I'm very proud to say that as a government we have continued to look for talent that's available within our island, and we have continued to put confidence in our people and continue to position our people into leadership roles. Some years ago, we took a decision to promote a number of qualified individuals to positions of being leaders in the various schools around the island, principals and head teachers. As usual, the spokespersons for the opposition went into attack mode. Attack some of these young people, said the most awful things about them. That, ladies and gentlemen, has not and will never deter me as a leader of this country, of this island, nor will it deter my cabinet. Because we believe that all of our people, but especially our young people, who have gone away and have tried to equip themselves and have made themselves available through their education, through their commitment and dedication to serve, that they ought to be given an opportunity. I'm not suggesting that all of them, when the opportunity is given, are going to be successful. But you must have a system and a government which has confidence in its people. And if you have a government which has no confidence in its people, then what is the use of that government? Let's just break it down and think about it. What is the use of electing people who have no confidence in the Namibian people? What is the use of electing people who will turn around and tell you, go sit down, you don't know what you're doing? We had a situation when the Honorable Joseph Parry was the leader of Nevis, the head of the NRP, from 2006 until 2013. And when challenged publicly that he was giving all of the road and infrastructural work to a Jamaican company called Surrey Paving, he launched a broadside attack against the public works and the young people at public works, the young engineers. And he said, not Mark said, he said, as a premier, that when these young people come back from university, they don't know what they're doing. And he's not going to give them any road to do, to waste up the money, and then the road mash up. So he said he gave them a road in brown pasture. Let them go practice, 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 learn how to drive. That is what he said about our young engineers at the Public Works Department. The leader of Nevis, who should be the cheerleader in chief for every division. That is what he said. Now some may have thought, well, that was just the jungle warrior being the jungle warrior. That's what he called himself. So again, that wasn't me. He called himself the jungle warrior. And that new people are there now, and you want to have people who are more enlightened and have a different approach. But you know, if you pour the same bad wine into new skins, it is still bad wine. And I'm concerned about the philosophy of the opposition, because we then heard Dr. Patricia Bartlett on a program. Dr. Patricia Bartlett should, in my estimation now, be approaching 70 in terms of her age. She's certainly well into her 60s. And she sat on a program as a political candidate for the NRP and said that when she goes to the hospital, she doesn't feel comfortable because she's not seeing people her age as doctors. She's seeing a bunch of young doctors. That makes her uncomfortable. And then she went on to say that these young doctors, that they don't have the experience, and suggested they might be treating people using Google. Google, as we know, is a search engine. So the suggestion is that when you come there, they put whatever in Google, and that's where they're getting their answers from. Utter disrespect and disdain for the training, the commitment, and the hard work of our young doctors at the Alexandra Hospital. Then, if that were all, we then had one of their chief spokespersons, a Dr. Daly, better known for his days at the CFBC. And Dr. Daly went, somebody sent me a clip of him berating the teachers that had been elevated to principals, berating the Honorable Janelle Nisbet, a qualified woman who is now part of the cabinet and serving in the Ministry of Health as a minister and doing an excellent job. Berated her, said this young girl don't know her ass from her elbow. I apologize for using that word, but that was the expression. And then he went on to say that we keep appointing these no-name people to positions. No name? How could anybody be so disrespectful and disdainful of the Nivision people? So the other day I went on social media and I posted a clip from Joseph Parry. And of course the usual apologists jumped on. Oh, why are you referring to Mr. Parry? Mr. Parry is no longer in politics. First of all, every once in a while they dust off Parry and put him on radio to say something political. He's still very much involved in politics. That's the first thing. Second of all, I find it interesting that the NRP apologists want to separate themselves and distance themselves from Joseph Parry. But every time that they want to talk about their party and the good things their party has done, they reach back into antiquity for Dr. Simeon Daniel. They remind you of Dr. Daniel and all that Dr. Daniel did for the island. Well, Dr. Daniel was long before Parry, you know. In fact, Dr. Daniel was out of office since 1992. So when you reach back for Dr. Daniel, you're reaching back 34, 35 years. But at the same time, you're saying nobody must mention Parry, who was there just a short 13 years ago. You see the hypocrisy? But I am not mentioning Parry for Parry's sake, you know. I am mentioning Parry because, as I said, this is a thinking that underpins these people. Parry tell the young people, go sit down, practice, I don't know what you're doing. Here comes Pat Bartlett, the young doctors, them, she not comfortable with them because nobody's her age. When she go to hospital, she need to see people her age as doctors. Then comes this CFBC fellow. Oh, they don't know they're from the elbow. And a bunch of no name. Well, I want to understand. What do you mean when you call Nevis people no name? What are the names that they're supposed to have? That they become people with an acceptable name. What do you mean no name? So if I'm Libert or Smith or Brantley or Williams, I'm a no name? But are you somebody therefore who has a name? What have you done with that name? Because the only thing that some of these pundits have to show for themselves is failure. They have not achieved a thing in life. So if there's anybody who doesn't know their nenen from the elbow, it's people like that, because you ask them, well, show us what you have done. Other than begging the people of Nevis to give you another chance at nearly whatever age you may be now. We're already collecting Social Security. But you're saying, give me another chance. Because you see this as your only salvation. There is no other opportunity for some of you other than persuading the people of Nevis to put you into office. No other opportunity. You've never started a little business. You don't know what it's like to pay somebody. You don't know what it's like to meet a wage bill. You don't know what it's like to pay a business license. You have never done anything about anything. Never done anything with your lives. But have the audacity to lambaste young people, say them are no-name people. And I want Nivisions to hear these things and understand these things, because some of us are going along and we're quick to apologize for what is wrong. And because we allow them to speak to us in this way, refer to us as no-name, dunce and stupid. These are our young people who have gone away, have come back, educated themselves. And this government, this CCM government, I am so proud. I am so proud because we have a record that we can stand on. We can look at our public service, look at our various agencies, see the young people, qualified people that we've given an opportunity. We're not just taking up anybody, you know, we're putting qualified people in positions. The reason why this occurred to me is today in the meetings when I look at young Al Stapleton, just elevated to general manager at Nevlec, and the way he acquitted himself in that meeting today with all these big experts from CDB and IDB throwing questions at him. Nevlek, what you say about this? Nevlek, what you say about that? Mr. Stapleton, calm and cool, was able to answer them. This government gave him that opportunity. Said to him, yes, you have equipped yourself. Now go and serve the people of Nevis at Nevlek. We see young Janisha Daniel had just moved to the head of Inland Revenue. Young Neva Manners Lamonta just moved up to Principal Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And we have other moves that are pending. So what happens each time these young qualified people get an opportunity to lead? Are they going to be lambasted? Are they going to be called no name? Are they going to be told, go sit down, you don't know what you're doing? When you come back from university, you don't know what you're doing? When are we going to have some confidence in our people? But you know, I have done my own analysis. And you know, growing old is a privilege, and I pray that God will grant me that privilege. But what I'm realizing is that you have some people who have achieved a certain age in life. They are past the usual retirement age. And it seems that because they themselves are past their prime, that is just a fact of life. I'm not throwing any darts at anyone. But because they've passed their prime, and they're now in that senior citizens bracket, it seems to me that they are urgently trying to close the door on young people because they see young people as a threat. Well, I don't see any young person as a threat, and I am fast approaching the senior citizens bracket myself. Because I understand that all of life is a stage. It has its entrance and it has its exit. And no matter how you feel you're great, you will have to leave the stage. It's as simple as that. That is just the nature of life. You will have to leave the stage. And if we all accept that we'll have to leave the stage, then by God, we must prepare the stage for the young people who are coming. How are you going to build a country when you're against young people? How are you going to build a country when every time people go and equip themselves, educate themselves, and come back with a master's degree and whatever, you tell them go sit down. When you come back from university, you don't know what you're doing. How are you going to build them and encourage them? I am out there now encouraging our people to come home, to take up space in this, the land of their birth. But how can you do that if a government is hostile to you? And you know the irony is the rank hypocrisy. One of the things that the NRP boasted about when they were in government, they sent some young people to Trinidad to train. Technical vocation. I did not agree with the program. I don't hide my mouth to say so. Not that I was opposed to those young people being trained, but I thought that you could do much more if you brought the trainers to Nevis. So instead of just sending 20 or 30 youngsters to Trinidad, you could have probably trained 3-4 times that number if you had brought the trainers to Nevis. That was my point. Anyway, government is government. Government has a right to take its decisions. They didn't take my suggestion on board. They went ahead and they sent these youngsters to train. They talk about it all the time as a crowning accomplishment for them. And I said, but what is the value of training divisions if the leader is going to turn around and tell them, when I come back, I don't know what you're doing. Me not give you no job to do. So I'm going to mash up the road and waste the money. I must go practice, learn how to drive. What is the value of training our people to then tell them that when they return? Excited, full of knowledge, want now to put their training to work for the country. You tell them, go sit down. They're going up the hospital. And this woman is going to tell them, listen, when I come up there, if you're not 64, 65, I don't feel comfortable with you. I want to see retirees like myself up there. You go into government, given a leadership role in the school, elevated in some ministry, and somebody goes and call you no name and say, oh, look at these young people, they don't know the tail part from the elbow. I mean, how in God's name can anybody offer themselves to the people of Nevis with that kind of rhetoric? And if even somebody were to say, well, that was Parry. Parry was backward in his thinking. And that was since 2000, whenever. You still have people now. Patricia Bartlett is the deputy leader of the party. The CFBC fellow is the chief cook and bottle washer for the party. He can't run now because I gave him the licking of a lifetime. Since then he take head, make foot. So you're not going to see him anywhere near ballot again. I've made sure to put him permanently in retirement. But they want to come through the back door. And you look at all of them have the same attitude, the same life pathway. None of them has done anything about anything. But willing to wash out them out on young people and tell young people that there's no place for them. Why? To protect themselves and to preserve for themselves positions of power and authority in the country. Forgetting that age-old admonition that all of us have an exit. And the leaders that are prudent and sensible prepare for that exit by ensuring that when they're gone, the island that we all love can continue from strength to strength. Only young people can do that. Only young people can do that. If you're out there and you disagree with me, you can call in and tell me why. But only young people have the energy, have the life expectancy that they can come in and ensure that this island continues from strength to strength. You hear me talking about geothermal? The plans that I have for geothermal, I will be long gone from office and long gone perhaps from this earth. So it must be the people who are in their 30s, 20s, 30s and 40s who are going to take that forward over the next 20 and 30 years, not me. So why would I be fighting against them? How could I say I love Nevis and I want development for Nevis if I'm fighting against those who are coming and offering themselves? And when I look at some of them, I look at Dr. Bartlett, with all due respect to her. I said, but Dr. Bartlett came back here as a vet. Was she not given an opportunity? Of course she was. She became the chief veterinary officer in Nevis. And even after she was due for retirement, I gave her extension after extension until I couldn't go any further. And there was a young person to take up the reins as chief veterinary officer, Dr. Ambrose, who was there. Had she continued indefinitely, what would have become of Dr. Ambrose? Eventually he get frustrated. He decided, man, I'm going to pack up my Georgie bundle and go someplace else. That's how we lose talent, because some people want to clog up the system. They don't want to move. They don't want to yield an inch. They want to have the opportunity for themselves, but they're not offer it to anybody else. You can't build a country like that. You can't build a country like that. And we must recognize that we all have our entrance and we must all have our exit. The wise leader prepares for his exit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark, and I'm going to open the lines. It is 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and I'm going to take some calls at 869-469-1616 and 1700. The lines are now open. The phone is ringing, so let's go straight to the phones. Good evening, you're On the Mark.
Good evening, Sheriff.
Good evening, my dear.
2 Samuel 22, verse 46, 47, and 48. Strangers shall fade away, and they shall be afraid of their close places. The Lord liveth, and blessed my rock, and exalt be the God of the rock of my salvation. It is God that advented me, that bringeth down the people under me. Have a good evening.
Thank you very, very much for that. Love it. Love the scripture. And thank you for being my first call. As always, you set the mood. I'm taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones, please, and say good evening. You are On the Mark.
Yes. Good night.
Good night to you.
Turn down my radio. I'm turning down
Hello?
my radio.
Hello?
Yes, I'm turning down my radio.
Please do so that we can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, my dearest Premier,
Good night to you.
and the ministers, the other ministers of your government. Okay, I'm reading from Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 3 to verse 8. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with its domini reproach. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring as of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contentment.
Hello?
Let me go on. Yeah, I just pause a bit here.
Okay.
It is not good to accept the person of the wicked to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contentment, and his mouth calleth for stroke. A fool's mouth, my glasses keep on falling. A fool's mouth, lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for stroke. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost part of the belly. The end of the reading of the scripture. May the Lord add his richest blessing unto it, and do have a good and blessed night. And I would like to say hello to Wilson Church over there in the Bronx, New York. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for your scripture.
Okay, dear.
All right, good. We're taking your calls, ladies and gentlemen. We've started the night off beautifully with 2 scriptures from 2 of our regular callers. So that's a good start. But we're taking additional calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Week after week, some people call me and complain bitterly that they didn't get a chance to get in. Well, this is your chance this evening. I suggest that you call if you can and get the opportunity to be on the air and to say what you have to say. One chap told me last week that he tried about 20 times and he could not get in. Well, the phones are now free. There's nobody on the line, so you have the opportunity to call in. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about a variety of things here. Culture Armor 52. We are trying to get your feedback. Incidentally, somebody just messaged me to say that the young lady from St. Kitts who was the influencer, her name is Lily. That is all I was told. So I'm sending out prayers for her that she recovers quickly. She had a fall on the final day, yesterday, the last lap. And so, Lily, if you're listening, I wish you a speedy recovery. Let's go back to the phones then. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Mark.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm calling from St. Kitts here. I'm calling from in the wilderness.
In the wilderness?
Yes.
Okay.
I love to listen to you because you're a nice speaker. You speak proper English. But, you know, I like you to do for me. You see Mrs. Barclay.
Could you keep up your voice, scholar? Your voice keeps dropping.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Mrs. Barclay, over the years, she worked with Mr. Weber. Right? I always fascinated with her voice, her stomach voice. And let me get to the point. You see, Mrs. Barclay, so I want to stop commonly here and try to discriminate the beautiful lady. If the lady need natural people to attend to her, watch here, everyone's choice is different. You know, you can't come on and say that she's degrading young people. I hear it's every week you're doing it to her. And 2 ladies just come and pray for you. You must start with mature yourself because she have a husband and aim. I've been nice for every week you come and discriminating lady, both vet this and one extension. And I love to hear that.
But Carl, can I ask you a question, please?
Respect.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you something. Okay, you've gone. But you said discriminating against people. When people come to you and ask you to vote for them, to put them in a position to make decisions for you, what do you look at to determine whether you could trust them or not? What do you look at to determine whether this person, you can put your confidence in them? The only thing we can look at is what they tell us. So you call it discrimination. I can't call it discrimination. I said that is the record. So if somebody goes on record as a candidate to say that when they go hospital, they want to see people old like them, given their age, which is already past retirement, then what will be the opportunity for young people in the country? That is a fair assessment. That is not any discrimination against anybody, caller. I don't agree with you at all. We can't have our political operatives, our political candidates being allowed to say any and anything, and then you just say, man, lad, don't question them, don't ask, because they are projecting to you what it is they feel and how they will govern. If these people with these sentiments trying to get into government already telling you, caller, what they think about young people, then how you think young people can get an opportunity in this our country? So it's not about discrimination, in my respectful opinion. And if you, as you say, you like the lady and you like the lady's voice and all that, that you're entitled to your opinion. I am not getting into like or dislike, you know. I am getting into the record. And I'm saying when people show you and tell you who they are, believe them. One of the problems we have in the country sometimes, you know, we elect bad people. We elect people we know to be worthless. We elect people we know never hold a job yet. We elect people we know had all kind of problems. There were institutions and money went missing. We try to put them in, and then when they go on the thief and they do badness, we start to say, Lord, Lord. What you say Lord for? You should have known. You want people in there who have never had a business, don't know what it's like to pay a payroll. But yet they're going to be in charge of the economy when they have no idea and have never made a contribution to the economy. Call out. So you say we mustn't say anything about them. We just, I believe, have to recognize that when you talk about somebody's record, it's not the word you use of discrimination. It's not cussing. It's the record. When I said Joseph Parry said this, because he said so. He not said so in private and somebody capture him on a hot mic. He said so open and bold. When I said Dr. Bartlett said what she said so on a radio station, open and bold. When the foolish fellow that cussed all these young people, he did so open and bold. He didn't hide. They're telling you who they are. So what you tell me, we must, as an electorate, ignore the signs? Ignore the signs? We can't ignore caller. These are people who are offering themselves, and when people offer themselves, they have to be examined. We must look at them. We must look at their lives, what they've done, the contribution they've made, the decisions they've made, because that is the only way we can determine whether we can trust them and put confidence in them to go in and make the right decisions for you and I. It's 1:15 the hour. Let's continue to take some calls. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good evening to you.
I'm calling on one thing, because everybody is going back, and I like to go back. Mr. Brantley, can I ask you what is your wife's, what is her profession?
My wife is a realtor.
She's a realtor, and what was she before that? What did she do before that?
My wife was trained in business.
Okay. Did she own a business in the Solomon Arcade? What was the name of that business?
No. My wife has never owned a business in the Solomon Arcade.
She never owned a business in Solomon Arcade?
She owns a business which is a realtor's firm that she's owned for the last, I think, 21 years, called 17 Degrees North.
In the Solomon Arcade, it was known as the 17 Degrees North?
No. I said my wife has never owned any business in the Solomon Arcade. She owns a business called 17 Degrees North.
Did she operate a business out of the Solomon Arcade?
No, she was employed to a business in the Solomon Arcade.
She was employed,
yes.
Okay. during that employment, do you remember she had a case with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Christianberry?
No, my wife never had any case with Dr. Christianberry.
She never had anything to do with Dr. Christianberry?
You asked me if she had a case. I said no, she never had a case.
Did she come into contact with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Christianberry?
I don't know who she would have come into contact with. She didn't work for me.
Okay, the reason I asked because there was an incident, and I clearly remember that you made a statement, whatever was happening, that whatever was going on with the gentleman, and he had called into a show or was interviewed by, if my memory serves me clearly, Mr. Edinburgh, who is now, he's a special advisor to the Prime Minister. And in that show, he said he had contact with a lady, he called her name, which is your wife, Sharon Brantley. I don't know if anyone else knew it by the name of Sharon Brantley.
Yes.
And he referred to an incident, and he specifically referred that he was scammed, I'm going to use his words, scammed out of some millions of dollars.
Yes.
And he went on to say that when he researched, he found out that she was the wife of the deputy premier, because I think that was your position at the time.
So are you calling?
No, I'm calling because
Yes.
Let me finish, please. Let me finish, Mr. Brandt. Let me finish. I recall you came on a show and you stated that whatever it was that was going on, I'm going to make it simple, that the amount that you would deduct from whatever the possession was would have been something like $650,000, because that is what you felt. I think through your law firm, you guys did that work for the gentleman. My question to you is, do you recall that incident? And can I ask you, because I'm hearing now that the gentleman died, can you tell us if that gentleman got his monies back?
Caller, I truly don't know what you're talking about. I had no indication about any $650,000. I don't know where you're getting these things from. You keep saying, caller, I listen to you. I listen to you. Now listen to me. Okay? That's the way the show works. You call in and you keep saying about I said, and you remember I said this and say that. If you can produce the evidence of me saying something, then I'll be willing to engage with you. Absent that, this is what I believe when we were young, we used to call Nancy's story. Okay? Because you're claiming now, caller, you hang on. You're claiming now how I say something about some $650,000. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I heard it.
Well, if you heard it, it seems.
I don't think back then we were into AI. But let's move
caller,
on.
it seems. No, I'm not ready to move on yet, because you cannot call in and try to muddy waters on the station and then talk about move on.
I'm not sure.
I am saying to you, caller, I'm saying to you that what you have said is absolutely false. That at no point did you ever hear me in any radio station anywhere talk about me having any dealings about any $650,000. I will go further. I will go further and tell you that you're bringing my wife's name up tonight is actually sad, because my wife was never involved in anything. She was never sued by anyone. She was never involved. There was some litigation involving a Mr. Christianberry and a company for which my wife worked. That was the extent of it. And that litigation, I don't know what happened with it eventually. But that was what happened. So it's almost as if you're saying to me tonight that if you happen to work at TDC and somebody were to sue TDC, then somehow your name should come up and you're trying through that process.
Specifically stated.
Listen to me. I said I listen to you.
Okay.
You are trying tonight to bring my wife's name into something about scam and all kind of thing. I am suggesting you cease and desist from that. Because one, it is untrue, and two, if you have issues with me, then you come to me with those issues, because I'm the politician, not my wife.
I'm
just suggesting to you.
Okay.
You stay away from that.
I didn't come on here to try to bring your wife in anything.
Well, please do not.
It is clear that
Good.
she's into a lot of things.
Well, whatever
Okay?
she's into,
She is
whatever she's
Okay,
into,
let's move.
caller, is none of your business. And
It is
it is not your business because she's not into anything that is breaking any law and that you should concern yourself with. And if you continue down this line, there are consequences for that, not on Von Radio, okay? So if you have something to say of any interest to the people of Nevis concerning me, the Premier of Nevis and the politician here, you are free to say that. Otherwise, you're free to hang up and go about your business. Do you have anything else to add? All right, you've gone. Thank you. It is now 22 minutes past the hour. This is where, ladies and gentlemen, I get a little concerned because here's a woman calling in and just lying. This is my difficulty. She heard a program where I said what? And if I hear the voice correctly, it's the same person who called in last week and said she was confused but didn't want to hear the answer. So therefore, was quite happy to remain confused. So they call in and they try to throw this thing and then hear what she says. Oh, let's move on. Well, how are you going to move on when you come with a barrage of lies to try and create some impression of something? And then tell me that you listened to an interview that was done with somebody called Christian Berry, and in that interview he said that he was scammed. Well, when people are scammed, what do? They go to the police, they go to the court. Isn't that what they do? So if you have evidence that my wife or myself or any member of my family was involved in any scam or were taken to court or were investigated or were arrested or were charged, then you bring that evidence forward. Other than that, as I've said, leave the Rose of Sharon out of this. Tangle with me. You understand? Because I know you can't handle me. So tangle with me. Leave people who don't trouble you and are not troubling you and frankly don't know anything about you out of your affair. If you want to come to me because I definitely know that I can handle you. So let's not go down that road. And this is exactly the kind of nastiness that I keep talking about. A caller called in earlier, he said, oh, that I was discriminating because I'm pointing out the record. I've never gone home for anybody. You've never heard me talk about Mr. Perry's wife or his children. Right? I don't do that. There was one incident that I recall in my political career when I mentioned one of Mr. Perry's children, and it's because there was a matter of public concern when his daughter had acted as the attorney and was listed as the shareholder. That was the only time. I am not going to get into people's families, and that is something that I see that you all are doing, and I'm suggesting you all stop it because the Lord knows that the Nevisian people know you all very well. And a lot of you who trying to poke and push and trying to say people have skeleton in their closet, you all wouldn't want people to open yours. So a word to the wise, as my good teacher Ivor used to say, is enough. So miss, I'm suggesting that you get your story straight, and if you want to play politician, stick to the politician and stick to the politics. Okay? That's my humble request of you. Now let's go to the phones and see if anybody else wants to talk to us. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad at all.
This is Stedman Clark from Clark One Stop. Could give me a few minutes to say a few words in relation to a raffle I will be having this weekend.
Sure, man. Stedman, go ahead.
I just want the general public to know that the countdown is on. This weekend I will be having a big raffle. But the highlight, my friend, of the raffle is this is the first time I am assisting students in the secondary school.
Okay.
I have a program where I would be helping 60 students in the high school, 30 from general and secondary and 30 from Charleston. I have come to the realization where a number of students are staying out of school and they're struggling with basic math and English. I remember after I had left sixth form, I had teach for a year and a half. And I had two students, I think Daniela Claxton, right? And Gabriel Dole. Those were two of the four students that I taught. And to me, the system didn't do much for them because they were brilliant students. But a number of students were staying out of school and they were struggling with the basic, as I said. So that had stayed with me for a while. Even though I had left teaching and gone into other field, I say, wonder what can I do to keep, to keep the interest and to assist the students. So I said, look, what I'm going to do is, for this raffle here, I'm going to help 60 students that are struggling with maths and English. I'm going to pay for them to go to class for a whole year. So that is basically the highlight of the raffle. And in addition to that, I will be raffling $60,000. So we have 10 persons going to win $1,000, and the jackpot winner going to walk away with $50,000. So I just want the general public to know that the initiative is a brilliant initiative, and I don't just want people to say, Clark, you're doing something good. I need your support. Because in order for this to be sustainable, we have to do it together. So I'm appealing to the general public that come this Saturday, you have the next 3 more days, get your tickets. 1 ticket is for $100. If you buy 2 tickets, you get the third one free. So I'm asking for your support, and let's do this together.
All right. So
for the last 5 years, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was helping the primary school students. So this is the first time I'm doing it for the high school, because normally the other raffles that I've been doing, you have 20 students in grade 6. I normally sponsor them. The raffle are normally held in December, January. I sponsor 20 students who are going to high school. I pay for them to go class. They're going to be 2 from each school that are struggling in maths and English. I pay for them to go to class for a whole until they're ready to go to high school. So that was the primary school program, but this is the first time I'm doing it for the high school. So students from 1st form to 5th form, I collaborate with the education and the school, and then they're going to choose who are struggling, those who need more help, and then I'm going to have a tutor to teach them for a year.
Well,
you want to say something?
No, well, I was just going to ask you to, well, first of all, commendations. I think that what you're doing is absolutely brilliant in terms of it's just not just being a raffle, but you're really giving back in a significant way. And I agree with you that the need that you've identified is a real need. But I was asking for just some more details. So people out there who are listening and who want to support, who want to buy tickets, the cost of the ticket, you said, is $100?
100 EC.
100 EC, and if you buy 2, you get 1 free.
If you buy 2 tickets, you get 1 free.
Okay, and then the raffle date is when?
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
At Market Shop, we have a domino competition, so we got $5,000 in prizes. So after the domino on Saturday, we will have the raffle.
Okay, and the raffle, you said there are 10 prizes of $1,000 each?
1,000 EC, and the jackpot $50,000.
$50,000. All right, excellent. And where can people purchase their tickets?
Well, I will be in town tomorrow until Saturday, and then we have Berlin, VS Cafe selling tickets, Bojo's Place, you have Friends Bar in Bar Village, and at Market Shop.
And a Market Shop. All right.
Yes,
any numbers?
A few other people will be selling.
Any numbers people can call if they're not mobile but they want to buy tickets and want maybe somebody to bring some tickets for them?
Well, 662-3777.
662-3777.
And they could call at the shop 469-3777 as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
I have some tickets for you too. So you just let me know how much you want tomorrow, and that you will get those.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks a million. Thanks for calling in. And great initiative. And as you say, using it's not just a raffle. Obviously, you're a businessman, and you're doing this to make some money, but you're also doing it for a good cause in terms of ensuring that our young people get that added opportunity in life. And I think that that's important. It's all about developing our young people. It is 9:30. We're going to go back to the phones. Let's try this caller. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Just admonition to callers who normally call in on this show. Number one, before you call in, you have to get your facts straight. You should not embarrass yourself on the line. Then you're going to bring up an issue, and then when question asks, you can't answer because you don't have your facts straight. And number two, you should not calling on a national radio station with an issue that you can't prove, because there's a possibility that you can be sued. Now, all these things, persons should take into consideration before they embarrass themselves calling in on any talk show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. But, caller, I think the issue is really that a lot of these people are given a script, Don't for a minute think that these are spontaneous calls. These are people who have been set up to call in, and they've been given a script. Many of them are given something. You can tell sometimes because when you engage them, they really don't know. That is why this lady who called in with her nonsense was quick to say, let's move on, because she really doesn't know what she's talking about. And the other thing that I'm confronted with on this show is people like to call in to say, oh, I hear you say so-and-so, and you said so-and-so years ago. One of them, I think it was the same one, calling to say how I was on some radio station in St. Thomas 20-something years ago, and I said so-and-so, if I remember. Now, I don't know about most people, but if you can remember everything you said 20-something years ago, then you must be a special person. So, you know, people come with this kind of thing, and I think it's unfortunate because this show is really intended for us to have a conversation that elevates us, elevates our divisionness. When people listen to us, I think people should go away saying, boy, yes, these people are really educated people. So when you get some people who call in and who really demonstrate the dunceness because of how they behave, it really brings the show into disrepute. It devalues the show, and it really puts the island in a bad light, in my opinion. So if you call in and you have your facts, as this caller is saying, you have your information, then we debate, and we could have a discussion. But if you call in with half-truths or no truths at all, you just start to throw things around. And that is the difficulty that we have. Some people, for example, would call and said, I listened to a radio station and Mr. Williams said that. And so you're now calling Mr. Brantley. But what is Mr. Brantley to do about what Mr. Williams would have said? You know, these are the kinds of things that you get confronted with. Almost as if I was the one who made that statement. So it's just called, I think, people who are being, you know, motivated. They have assignments to do each Wednesday, and they call in, and they sometimes, I believe, they have no clue of what they're talking about, and that is why they end up sounding foolish, quite frankly, because they don't want to ask. I can't ask them a question because they really don't know. My thing to them is when the people come with the paper, tell them, call in themselves. That's what you need to do. So let them be the ones to call in, not make that call, because this caller tonight, I think, was very close to the edge of making herself liable, and that only can come from people who are really dotish and are willing to do the bidding of others without seeing that they're putting themselves at jeopardy. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, you're on the air.
A.k.a. Stoneman.
Yes.
Mr. Brantley, you're talking about people not remembering and not saying the right thing. Do you remember a couple weeks ago, Junie Libert called you in reference to destiny, and you made the statement that, according to your recollection, no landowner has ever shown any dissension or is against the destiny, and they are desperate to sell the land?
Yes, you have a point to make, Mr. Williams. Go ahead.
No, I'm asking you, do you remember making that statement?
I can't recall a precise statement that I made, but yes, I would have suggested to him that we're not hearing any noise from landowners over there. I gather there are over 400.
So am I not a landowner?
I don't know. Are you?
You well know that I am a landowner.
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody called in the other night saying you don't have any paper for any land.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Right? And you know there are others who are landowners.
Right, okay.
And have you ever gone over there and seen a for sale sign on any of those pieces of land?
No, I have not.
Since we are so desperate to sell.
No, so if you don't have a for sale line, that means you're not desperate to sell.
No, I'm not. You say that we are desperate to sell and we well want to get rid of our lands and
yeah. So what's the point you're making? You're not desperate to sell. That's what you're saying?
Wait, let me finish.
Yes.
And I was over there with a gentleman, DJ Moucher, over the holidays. And I showed him the farms which you said did not exist. I showed him the hundreds of head of animals which were let go at morning time, which you and Eric Evelyn said, according to him, he has no knowledge of any animals in that area. The land which you claim as desolate, useless, barren, and you must stop to lie.
Caller, let me ask you something.
Like
Caller, if you drive on the Island Main Road and you see, if you drive on the Island Main Road, caller, if you drive on the Island Main Road and you see 200, 300 heads of animal walking on the Island Main Road, that tells you that the Island Main Road is fit for farming? I mean, some of the things y'all call the radio station and say. Right? Who is it that has a farm over there?
I am telling you.
Can you share with me who is it has a farm over there?
I am telling you.
Yes.
The fact. Right?
Okay. All right, we heard your fact. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Because, again, I don't know. I probably going to need brain surgery when I'm done with the show tonight because I just don't get it. You have over 400 landowners, I'm told, in the south of Nevis. You have this gentleman who just called in, Mr. Williams, he said, Stoneman, and he making a whole heap of noise. Somebody calling the other day say he don't have no paper for his land. Now, I really don't know. I am not interested in whether Mr. Stoneman owns land or doesn't own land. Mr. Stoneman is making noise, fine. I was making the point on the radio station that the landowners themselves, you don't hear from them. The people you hear making noise about destiny and land is, by and large, 99.999% of them don't own any land over there. So he's not going to say he go over there with somebody he claim. I don't even know who he's talking about. Say he showed them sheep and goat over there, hundreds of sheep and goat. And what he said, I can't even remember what he's saying. Farms and all kind of thing he said is over there. Well, I can't speak to that because the last time I went over there was probably about a year ago. And I certainly didn't see any farms over there. The point that I was trying to make is if people let go their animals and the animals are roaming through private lands, you can't refer to that as a farm. That's the same as saying when people let go their animals and you see them walking down the main road, the island main road, that the island main road is now a farm. So a farm, to my mind, would mean that somebody has established something. They got a pen, they got animals, they got water, they got whatever they need. For a farm, they have crops growing, they have something. That to me is what a farm is. But maybe it is. I'm not quite certain now about the English language. And, you know, I don't have an English accent, so maybe I don't understand it quite as well as Stoneman does. But Stoneman, if you are making noise about your land, then that's your right. You're entitled to make as much noise as you want about whatever it is you say belongs to you. My point, however, remains that I'm not hearing from the 400 plus landowners in the area. I'm hearing from one or two. And whilst I won't get into that, I really know what the real story is for those one or two. So we'll just leave that there and we move on. Let's go back to the phones. We have 20 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you.
I have a question concerning the geothermal, kind of going back a little bit. You mentioned that a team will be sent to Iceland to inspect the rig. So who comprised this team? Where is this team coming from to inspect the rig? So I'll listen off here.
Okay, so there will be, I think, one or two persons from Nevlec. But the team would be persons who are experts in that. So they have these are various firms that offer that expertise. So we will be hiring external experts to accompany, I think, one or two members from Nevlec to Iceland to inspect the drill rig. That's one of the preconditions before the rig is deployed to us. So that is expertise that is being hired under the project. So it's not people from Nevlec who are going to actually do the inspection, although people from Nevlec will be there. The inspection is to be done by experts whom we would have hired. So Nevlec would hire experts under the project that will accompany them to Iceland, who will do the inspection, give the necessary verdict, and if the verdict is good, then the rig is mobilized. So that's a requirement under the arrangement, the funding arrangement with these lending agencies. Let's go now back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Now, I got two issues.
Yes. We don't have a lot of time left, so if you can state them quickly.
So, I'll give you quick.
Okay.
The destiny, Dr. Duke can sign off on it. To actually, the bill needs to be repealed. To be given a single project more than 1/3 of the developer land in Nevis. Something is wrong with that.
When you say given, caller, what do you mean given?
Actually, Nevis has like 23,000 something acres of land. The land you got that is developable, 30 to 35%, equates to about 8,000 something acres. Destiny, correct me, is proposing or supposing 2,500 to 3,000 acres. That's more than 1/3 of the land you got. Out of 8,000 acres, you have only 5,000 acres left. Also, the West will not allow Europe to develop the land for 1,000 families. Is minimum 4,000 people and a population with 10 to 12,000. My question is, who run things then? And according to the project, to the bill, the SSZ bill, those persons in that have almost full autonomy. I'm going to go now to the geothermal.
Wait, don't go yet. Have you read the
SSC? Let me know, me I'm leaving. Just let me address
I want to know if you read the SSC bill?
I got copies of it.
I'm going to ask you that. Ask if you read it.
I can tell you what alarmed me most was the part that says their own conflict resolution system or whatever it says. That means to me translate their own courthouse. I'm talking about the bill. I didn't ask a question. I read it many times.
Good. Well, that's all I'm asking, if you read it. Go ahead now.
Yes. Okay, so I'll move on to the geothermal. The geothermal, I would like Nevisions to Google the negative effects of geothermal. Also, I would like you to know that the cost of it and the dangers involved, even the water. One of my biggest questions is, where is the water going to come from, becoming from, to keep it cool? We are waking up a volcano. You see in Dominica, they got live, active volcanoes. For them, the geothermal energy is different. We are drilling is like putting vents in the coal keel. When after you put too much vents in there, you come back next morning, the keel burned down. We could all relate to that. The earthquakes, the land sinking, the pollution. I'm saying we got sun. Let us invest in sun. We got that. The cost of it is minimal. The negative effects of it is almost none.
Caller, that is not true.
And what the people of Nevis, you hear what I tell them though? Google.
Yes.
Both.
And I think that you need
make their own comparison. Good. I have done it numerous times.
Okay. All right, caller. Well, thank you very much for that. And I'm happy that you've encouraged people to Google, as you say. You know when you Google, you can find almost anything you want. What I will tell you is that the geothermal project in Nevis has had the benefit of extensive environmental impact assessments. We've had the benefit of the University of the West Indies seismic unit. They're the ones who deal with earthquakes in the region. They have had public meetings here. In fact, I attended a public meeting that they had at NEPAC, where the UE scientists were on the screen taking questions from the audience. And all of those things that you are claiming, those things would have been dealt with and dealt with in those reports.
So you
Iceland, Iceland, wait, I listened to you, so you now listen to me. I said I listened to you. Caller, I listened to you, so you now listen to me. Because you've come with some information which is simply incorrect.
No, it's not correct. Let the people
Iceland as a country.
Let the people do their own homework.
Caller, all right, good. So we're encouraging people to do.
With political jargon.
All right, okay. Caller, we thank you for your contribution. Okay? You have come, you have said that people should go and Google. I am sharing just as you believe. Could we get this caller off the air, please, and let us move on with something else? Because I don't understand people who just want to come, chat foolishness, and then don't want to listen. Caller, you asked people to do their research, and you shared the benefit of your research. I am saying to you that all the things that you're saying have been dealt with here on the island of Nevis. Environmental impact assessments have been done. There are countries in the world like Iceland that depend heavily on geothermal. There are countries in the world like Kenya, even in the great United States. You have some parts of California, Nevada, and those places that have geothermal energy. You said Dominica has active volcanoes. I don't know where the active volcanoes are in Dominica. Active volcanoes would suggest that you have volcanoes erupting. Here in Nevis, you know, we have the hot springs, we have fumaroles all around the island, that our volcano is dormant. They have done the testing, they have done the research. They have determined that Nevis has, according to the experts, one of the best geothermal resources in the world. You say that sun and exploring solar, that there are no negatives. That's also false. Because to get solar, one, the panels, two, the battery storage. Right now the world is grappling with what do you do with those batteries after you've used them for battery storage. Everything that you do in this life has pros and cons. Geothermal in terms of pollution, they say, other than some noise pollution, and I have to say they because I'm not an expert, other than some noise pollution, there is not much in terms of any air or other pollution. It's a closed loop system where the hot air is tapped into, it comes, it runs through a turbine, and it's put back in terms of water into the Earth's atmosphere. And this is infrastructure, caller, that is all across the world, all across Latin America, and all across other parts of the world. So all I'm suggesting to you, if you had allowed me to have a conversation with you, rather than trying to shout over me, is simply to say to you that you must also Google that. Because we all know, sometimes you go online and you get information which is not necessarily accurate information. I at one time had my own concerns about earthquakes, and I said to the government of the day, I was in opposition, that they ought not to just accept what the developer says. The developer at the time was West Indies Power. I said to them, bring in the experts so that the experts could assure the people of Nevis. When we got into office, that's exactly what we did. We brought in the experts from the University of the West Indies seismic unit, and they came and they had public consultation. You see, part of my problem is that a lot of people who want to call in the radio stations and pontificate do not avail themselves of the opportunities to attend any of these discussions where the questions could be asked, and people with actual expertise, people who have actually studied, people who actually understand these things can answer. So caller, what I'm suggesting to you is that your information is incorrect. Let's now move on and see if we can get somebody else. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Caller, hello? Hello. Okay, that caller doesn't want to talk to us. Do we have anybody else who's holding? Let's go to the phone. Good evening, caller, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, I have a couple questions for you.
Yes, you got to make it quick, though. We only have 10 minutes.
Okay. As far as the project distance, the The question is bringing in 33,000 people there.
Where do you get that number from, caller?
Well, if you're bringing in 10,000 home units plus
I think the information that was shared said that they anticipate over the life of the project to have 7,000 to 10,000 residents. That is what information I'm aware of.
But the workers that you're going to bring in to build and to go ahead and do the construction, you can't source it just only from Nevis.
Yes, but when construction is over, what happens?
Okay, so as you bring total of 33,000 people.
Again, you're saying a number that is just, there's no basis for it. That's all I'm questioning. I mean, you can make your point without saying things that are not true and which you can't substantiate.
So to build 10,000 homes, the labor force that would take to go ahead and do that, you don't think that that they'll reach that number?
I don't think so, because you're building homes over an extensive period of time. You're not building the homes in 1 week or 2 weeks, caller.
Okay. I didn't want to go ahead and start off, and I know you don't have a lot of time, but
right.
How soon do you anticipate Project Destiny to be started?
Well, if I had my will, I would have it start immediately. So I don't really know, because we're still in the process of trying to get the necessary approvals for the project to move forward. The last update we had, which I shared publicly, was that there had been a meeting between representatives from the federal government, representatives from the NIA, and the Destiny folk. There were 4, I think, issues that were outstanding, and my understanding was that those were resolved. So at this point, we're in a waiting pattern to see what happens. The matter is still with the federal government on St. Kitts.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to go ahead and be hostile or anything like that. I just simply ask questions for that. The other question I had, if you give me a chance. So, I think I don't. Well, first I'm gonna state outright, I don't agree with Project Destiny, and the reason why is because I have family in St. Kitts Nevis, and I believe that Project Destiny will go ahead and turn the indigenous division into basically low class, not low class, but just higher labor for your project, and all the families that are down there now, basically that's what they'll do, because you're bringing a rich class to go ahead and populate the island. And who's to say that they won't go ahead and reach over the fence of Destiny and buy other land when they're here? They're rich. Is there any type of legislation inside of the bill to go ahead and protect indigenous land, I guess, outside of the fence?
Yeah, Cole, again, in our public consultations, all of those issues were raised and ventilated. We have said that it is one of the restrictions. There are 2 things that we were very clear on, that these individuals could not purchase lands outside the established zone if they chose to live in the zone. And the second thing was that these individuals would not be able to vote if they lived in the zone, because the zone, living in a zone like that, would not qualify you for your residential purposes for voting. Those were 2 things we made very clear in our discussions with them, and we made very clear in our discussions with the public.
Well, I guess the last question I have, because we're running out of time. As far as for the vetting process of any of these investors that's coming in, where do you, what types of people are you marketing to go ahead and bring in?
So, caller, we are not marketing, because the government is a private project. So just like the Four Seasons sells its homes to whoever they sell them to, that's an issue for the developer. It's a private business. The government is not involved in that. What I will say is that anything that comes to us, that is through the government, goes through a vetting process that we have, where we use external agencies to check. Nevis has, as you know, been involved in the financial services sector now for over 40 years. So we're well versed in the whole issue of compliance and due diligence and all of that. We're no strangers to that. So I don't think that there's a real concern where that's concerned, and Nevis is concerned, because we have a long history of doing exactly that.
My concern is not specifically the criminal aspect. They have certain populations. So right now, as you know, with the war that's going on over in the Middle East and so on, there are a lot of populations that are getting displaced and looking for foreign land. As far as for like the Jewish population and the different folks that's in there, as you know, there are some populations that are very predatory and isolationist and so on there. And one of my concerns, I'm wondering if you guys thought about it as far as for bringing in certain like religious groups or anything like that. And what's your take on that?
Well, caller, under our Constitution, you're guaranteed freedom of religion. So I don't know that you can start now to tell people if you're a certain religion you can't come. People come and people are welcome. At the end of the day, you want people who are going to contribute positively to the development of the island. People will be people. You have good people and you have bad people. So what you try to do through your vetting process is to weed out any bad people. But to say that there's this group or that group, which as you say is predatory, I don't know that that is true of any group. I think everybody can be predatory if they're given the opportunity to be. It's human nature. So I feel that you've voiced a lot of fears and a lot of concerns, and I don't think that they are illegitimate concerns, but we've confronted a lot of those same concerns in our public engagements, and we've provided to the people of Nevis the relevant answers based on what we have negotiated thus far. And so I really understand when people say, listen, I have a fear, I have a concern, and that concern comes down to me broadly, if I can use a word, to change. A lot of people are saying, well, you know, Nevis is going to change, and we don't really want that change, or we are fearful of that change. But every development comes with change. Four Seasons brought change. You know, any large development is going to bring change. It's going to bring a change in perspectives and a change in how we deal and what we do. Prior to the Four Seasons coming, for example, most of us, our mothers were at home. And Four Seasons came and everybody in Nevis ended up having a paycheck. People were working. And so a lot of the parents now at work, the children were left at home, and then many said that that led to an increase in you know, child difficulties with our children, antisocial behavior, etc. That was one of the downsides, right? So everything you have to think, look at the positives and the negatives, because every single thing we do, caller, every single thing we do, every decision we make will have positives and negatives. The only issue for me as the leader of this island is whether on balance we can say that the positives outweigh the negatives, because we are going to have both, and we have to put them on the scale and make a determination. And one of the reasons why I've been attracted to a significant project like Destiny, and I say like Destiny because I'm not wedded to Destiny. It doesn't have to be Destiny, but a large project coming into Nevis at this point is because I know the CBI is dead, and I realize that the island needs something. We need to create jobs. I am not as fearful as you are about Nevisians becoming waiters and, you know, people in the hotel, and that's all. I am not at all persuaded by that argument. Our people are ambitious people, and our people will rise to the top given the opportunities. Just as we can become accountants, we can become hotel managers, we can become chefs, we can become entrepreneurs. I believe that those of us who have a positive outlook, who feel that the Nevisian people are not subservient or inferior to anybody, will look at the possibilities and say, can that young man now become the head of a large corporation because he's providing this particular service to a large business like this, a large development like that? Can our contractors expand what they're doing and become big-time contractors now? Can the man with the one backhoe now own 10 because he expanded his business to provide that type of service to large developments like those? That's the way I think. I acknowledge not everybody thinks that way, but that's the way I think. I'm thinking about growth. I'm thinking about development.
But it's misguided.
Well, you can...
The reason why I say that is because I can see that if you do it to scale. But if you bring in 13,000 people or 15, 20,000, the population of Nevis is the same or equal, they will be displaced.
Well, all right. Caller, that is your view. I don't share your view, but the time is up. Next week, please call back in earlier. I'd be delighted to have that discussion with you. But I certainly don't share that view. But thanks for your contribution. We had some other people holding. We can't get to them because the band is struck up. It means we have to go. That's our show for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. We ended with a caller who I wish he had called in earlier because I definitely would like to engage with him. He's concerned about people being displaced, and a lot of people talk about displacement, act as if you're going to have 10,000 people show up on a boat tomorrow. That is not the way that this works. We're talking about people over time. I remind those who are listening that Four Seasons just started construction on the last phase 35 years after they did the first phase. 35 years after. So you have to look at development as a long-term project. It's not tomorrow. And we expect our population to grow and to evolve. And I will not resile from the position that we need people. And if we can't get our own people like yourself, caller, to come home, then we have to find people where we can find them. Our neighbors in the Caribbean and others coming from farther afield. In any event, this is a debate for another day. That's our show. The band has struck up. We have to go. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, good night and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcast